Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith, a very brilliant man, a man I don't always agree with, and I hope one day that he will take a stronger stance when it pertains to the TTPS and advocate for genuine and significant reformation within that police service. Get rid of all the rogue officers from top to bottom, and ensure that if they have committed serious crimes, they face time in prison. Also, even with the training process, ensure that these police officers understand that when they exit the exit training, that they have to abide by the same laws which they enforce upon everyone, including the normal everyday laws like the traffic laws and so forth. So former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith says he's concerned that the detention of businessman Dominic Hadeed, his wife Genevieve, and their relative Star Sabga will set a precedent where police can detain someone without just cause while abusing certain emergency powers to spite others. Weaponizing the police service. I've been saying that. I've been raising this alarm for many days now. The Hadeeds were detained by police at their Pine Avenue, Bayshore, West Moorings home early on the morning of June 24th as part of a police inquiry. Nearly 6 days now, these people have been in prison, people. You could imagine that. They never saw prison in their life before, at least not in it. I've actually been in it. And now because when UNC wins, everybody wins. These people are in prison. And it begs the question, 6 days later, no charges laid yet. So what type of evidence did they find on these devices? Huh? Was it that I'm really questioning this now? I've been questioning it since last night, actually. Is it that these individuals were having personal conversations amongst each other? These two women were probably sending messages to each other via WhatsApp and whatever. And they were expressing their feelings, and maybe certain controversial statements were made, right? It really was controversial. But there's no plot. They were just having personal discussions about how they feel. And therefore somebody either bust a mark, or even worse, the question is the government spying on individuals here in Trinidad and Tobago? Something that I think the UNC used to accuse the PNM of doing years ago. Is the government now spying on citizens of Trinidad and Tobago? Should we be careful? I believe we should. I know my family members are, that we shouldn't be having certain discussions on WhatsApp, although WhatsApp's supposed to be safe, right? Especially in WhatsApp groups. Don't have certain discussions in WhatsApp groups. Because just like how a lot of family members will sell you out in the end times during the Antichrist reign, people are doing it already even in these times. And the Antichrist reign is very close anyhow you take it. That 7-year tribulation period, we are seeing it coming closer and closer. But that's a different discussion. But I'm just saying, so maybe it's either these people were being spied on, or some family member decided to bust the mark and say, well, these people were having these discussions. But did they actually plot to commit a serious crime? Or was it just normal talk? Like we call it rum shop talk. Huh? That's the question. Because if there was significant evidence of a crime being actually committed, they would have been charged by now. Or should have been charged by now. As of yesterday, day before yesterday now, afternoon, police had not confirmed the nature of the investigation into the Hadeeds. But rumors are spreading. We're hearing all sorts of different things. However, a media report suggested that a couple were detained as part of a purported plot to assassinate the Prime Minister and senior members of the government. Was it really a plot, TTPS? Because if it was, then you would have charged them already. And I would have agreed, yes, no one has the rights to try to do these kind of evils. People, I'm against the government, but I leave them in the hands of God. Just like when crime is committed in the normal parts of society, I say do not commit vigilante justice. Do not take the law into your own hands. I don't agree with extrajudicial killings either. But we have a culture in Trinidad and Tobago that supports extrajudicial killings. But I believe in putting judgment in the hands of God if the justice system fails. But maybe these individuals made certain statements, as I said before, amongst each other. Private conversations, not any plan, not any plot. That's how they were feeling. Just like how Samaru, he just made a statement about how he was feeling, and it was hypothetical. He never said he was going to hire anybody to do anything. You understand what I'm saying? And yet he was detained as well. So it seems as though the elites under the UNC don't have free speech either, just to voice their opinion, not to plan anything, because if you're a lead and you plan anything, you should be jailed as well. I'm saying they probably just had normal discussions about how they were feeling amongst family members, amongst friends, and somebody must be bust the mark or they were being spied on. The Hadeeds and relative star Sabga remained in custody up to yesterday under PDO's preventive detention orders. You understand what I'm showing you? So even whatever discussions these two women were having in the WhatsApp, it seems as though it wasn't sufficient evidence to carry to the DPP in order for charges to be laid. You understand what I'm saying? The DPP might end up saying, well, you know, they're just talking, you know. Bring to me evidence to prove that they were plotting to carry out this crime, and then I can charge them. And you know, the thing about it is, a lot of the times, I already said I think that the DPP should be held accountable for so many cases going towards the courts that are thrown out. So you're supposed to have more sense than that. But you know when they're dealing with the Hadeeds, you ain't going to take that chance. Any person in the upper class, a matter of fact, you will take chance with the small man, the common man like myself. When contacted for comments, Griffith described the detentions as concerning, noting that the reason surrounding the incident was vague and warning that arresting someone on the basis of suspicion alone would affect the perception of the TTPS. Exactly. But no, everyone already knows that we have one of the worst police services in the whole of the police agencies in the whole world, while allowing some people in authority to victimize others with whom they have personal grievances with. He added yesterday, it is Dominic Hadeed, and tomorrow it could be any citizen in this country, and everyone is staying quiet because they are fearful it could be them next. And he's 100% correct about that, and that is what I've been raising as well. I've been raising alarm about that. I've been trying to warn the UNC fanatics outside there that you're enjoying seeing UNC and the TTPS going after the PNM people. Not realizing in 2030, you don't know the future, most likely PNM will win. And they're going to use those same laws against you. So when it starts to chant, Penny must go the way you were chanting, Rowley must go, they're going to come after you. When it is you start to insult anybody in the PNM government, they're going to come after you. Everything that you are applauding right now will be used against you in 4 years. I don't understand how these people think in this country. Griffith also said he felt if the investigation into the Hadeeds did not lead to a successful conviction or favorable result for the police, it would reflect poorly on local law enforcement and possibly open the state to costly legal redress. Of course, it will lead to that. Most likely, the Hadeeds are going to win millions upon millions of dollars in damages, in compensation, people. Unless it really has significant evidence outside there to be able to convict them, which will be good, they're going to win and win in a very big way. And based on the statistical record of the TTPS, most likely, as I said before, they would have been charged already. Most likely, there's insufficient evidence. So even if this case is taken to court, it's going to be thrown out, and then the Hadeeds are going to have a lawsuit, take a lawsuit against the state and win millions of dollars in compensation. The common man wins it at times as well, right? Wrongful arrest, and malicious prosecution, and win hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So you can imagine what the Hadeeds will win. My Lord have mercy, boy. My response online, at this point, Kamala has taken TNT closer to a full dictatorship than Rowley. You can imagine, I would have never believed that. If somebody early last year, told me that Kamala would have ended up a bigger dictator, more arrogant dictator than Rowley, I would have said, you mad or that is impossible. Not Kamala, not compassionate, loving Kamala. My goodness, what 1 year can do. I voted UNC my entire adult life, but will never do so again. Never. Never, never, never. Because you see, the thing about it is, none of the members of the UNC are standing up and saying, enough is enough, Prime Minister, you're doing nonsense. None of them are doing that. None of them are calling for a vote of no confidence. None of them. So then you cannot trust any of them. Give credit when it's due, but don't be afraid to also criticize them, Gary Griffith. I do it as well. When it is they are doing something good, I will always continue to do so. If it pertains to education, health, the energy sector. When I'm doing certain reports, I did it this morning on my Real Conservative Update channel, right? Highlights channel. I will continue to do so. But do not be afraid to condemn them and criticize them as well. UNC supporters don't care if PNM will use restricted zones and SOEs to oppress the people of TNT for two main reasons. Listen to the two main reasons. Number one, in their minds, it's we time now to target and imprison PNM politicians and their wicked supporters. It's just about it's all about tit for tat, people. That's how shallow the minds of UNC supporters are, just like PNM supporters. Number two, they don't believe, for some reason, I don't know if it is a spell they're under, they don't believe that PNM will win in 2030. You go and ask any swing voter right off, they will go, if they had a chance to go back in time and vote, they would say they would not vote for UNC. Most swing voters will say they were not going to vote for UNC because this is not what the manifesto stated. They did not vote for this manifesto. This was a hidden manifesto. I guess they truly believe that swing voters will still trust this rogue UNC party when that time comes. It's a rogue UNC. This is not a real UNC. This is Roger Alexander and TTPS UNC. This is not the UNC of the past. This is not Pandey's UNC. This is not even Kamala's UNC in the past that had some issues. But this is not. This is Roger Alexander and Philip Alexander, Edward Alexander, UNC. PNM lost about 1/3 of their base last year, but I have a deep feeling that UNC will lose an even larger percentage of their base in 2030, which will ensure that they lose some of their safe seats. You know how they had a landslide victory last year? They're going to have a landslide defeat in 2030. You will no longer be a viable option, I'm telling you, and I'm hoping, I'm praying, I continue to hope and pray that during these next 4 years, somebody will arise, whether it's Michaela Pandey or somebody else, somebody will arise and start a whole very regular meetings with the people of Trinidad and Tobago and build a base so that we can have a third option. Because we should not go back to the PNM either. We really shouldn't. Because it will just be the whole vicious cycle will continue, where there will be persecution of opponents, incompetence, corruption, and there's a whole lot more corruption under the PNM anyhow you take it. But there's a corruption, oh gosh, the PNM is the father of corruption. But you see all this kind of political warfare and things like that, it will continue under the PNM as well, and it will even get worse. Because once UNC starts something, PNM is not going to stop it. They will just take it to the next level, and so it will continue going. We really need change here in Trinidad and Tobago. Will it happen? It's very unlikely though.
Good evening to all citizens of my country. Before I commence, let me make it clear that as a patriot of my country, I fully support this government and our Prime Minister and will do everything possible to ensure that they succeed in serving our country. The comments that I am about to make would initially cause some to automatically turn to an issue about PNM versus UNC or Afro-Trinidadian versus Indo-Trinidadian, 1% versus 99%. This is not what it is about. This is about Trinidad and Tobago and doing things in the proper manner. I am not even going to get started about the tens of millions that the taxpayers, you the taxpayers, will have to pay when persons are held via preventive detention orders without any charge laid after the state of emergency. Now, I have been a patriot to my country for decades, with service in the military as a national security advisor, Minister of National Security, Commissioner of Police. And what I'm seeing here in relation to these preventive detention orders, the PDOs, decided solely upon the stroke of a pen by a minister who's a politician, I believe that it can set a very dangerous precedent. And this must not be seen in any way as a target to the government, as this policy and pattern can become the same for governments to come after the UNC. So before the UNC supporters get offended by my concern, understand that tomorrow it could be you being incarcerated for months without evidence and without a charge being laid by a PNM government minister. Is that what you want? Minister Alexander, he rightfully attempted to assure the public that he cannot authorize a preventive detention order without a process, without a chain of recommendations and reports from the police commissioner, as well as acquiring information from his attorneys to sift through the documents before it is given to him for advice, etc. That is not true. There is nothing that mandates this. And sadly, our media, they lap up his comments, and no one asks him to show where in our laws does it mandate any input from anyone before the minister removes the freedom of any citizen via a preventive detention order. Now, note the difference whereby the police, led by a commissioner, which is an arm of law enforcement and is non-political, but they, when they arrest and charge a citizen based not on intelligence but on evidence, you will be given the opportunity to have a trial in court and be given bail. Now, in total contrast, under state of emergency, what we are experiencing now is that through that state of emergency with a preventive detention order, it allows a politician to have you arrested based on his personal view as what he deems as intelligence, with no evidence, no trial, no court hearing, and no bail. Now, that only happens in a police state. And I want to re-emphasize, the line minister for security, who is a politician, has sole authority to sign an order to take away the freedom of any citizen based solely on his personal view of what he deems intelligence to warrant such. And if he wants to try to pass the buck and mislead the public to say that such a detention order must come first from the Commissioner of Police, which, as I said, is totally false and misleading. But let us say he decides to go down that road. It also means that the Commissioner of Police likewise can do the same, send a recommendation for a detention order for any citizen based on what he perceives as intelligence and forward it to the minister, and your freedom is also taken away with no evidence, no trial, no court, and no bail. Now, again, as I said, before the UNC supporters start on your rampage, I am asking you, how would you feel if such a pattern, such a precedence becomes the norm in our country and the government changes somehow and the PNM security minister is now given that type of authority to use the word intelligence to have you incarcerated indefinitely because you're a non-supporter of the PNM government? You see, as they say, do so and like so. The reason I bring this point is because I experienced the hatred and the venom of PNM ministers trying their best to have me arrested because I refuse to arrest their political opponents, inclusive of the present Prime Minister. So before people jump on a bandwagon, this is not about me and politics. This is about me getting it right and speaking and saying the right thing. Had they thought about the PNM, by the way, if they thought about having an SOE with PDOs, as we are seeing now, this is what they could have very well done to me, with no evidence, no witness, no report, no statement, nothing at all, but simply using the word intelligence to lock up those opposed to them. The direction Trinidad and Tobago is going in right now with this state of emergency and preventive detention orders, it is not the right avenue. The most fundamental right of any citizen in any part of the world is your right to live. Your second most fundamental right is your right for freedom. And that freedom is now being removed based on this concept of a state of emergency and this line of a preventive detention order. As a national security advisor, I remember I told the Prime Minister then, I do not see a state of emergency being used and should be used as a crime-fighting tool. I stick to that. However, in this present situation, because of the failure of the present line Minister of Security and the Commissioner of Police, they don't have the ability to come up with one anti-crime fighting plan, not one new unit, not one new technology, not one new system, not one new policy to reduce crime. The Prime Minister was left with no choice other than to adhere to the plea of the Commissioner of Police to have a year plus state of emergency. Okay, fine. But to now have within a state of emergency, we are allowing a politician to deprive any citizen of their right for freedom with due process not being there. No due process, no natural justice without a chance to be heard, without a trial, without a court hearing, without bail. That is similar to what we have seen in a dictatorial state. The value of the state of emergency is that is because you do not have the capability to turn intelligence into evidence to lay charges. That is why law enforcement call for a state of emergency. I am unable to do the job, so now I need something now to take away the rights of citizens because I don't have the ability to turn intelligence into evidence to charge you. Now, the state of emergency provides them now with the opportunity to take away the freedom of others without evidence to lay charges or to have you incarcerated. So because you have a state of emergency providing that preventive detention order, it gives the line minister that authority to have that preventive detention order to arrest whoever he feels so without a shred of evidence and just use that word intelligence to justify this dictatorial act. That's what I will call it. So there's a flaw in the law and it can be used to be abused. I'm not saying that it is happening with this line minister and this commissioner. I don't think so. All I'm stating is that this could very well take place and it should not It should not take place in a country that's a democratic society where you have the right to be free, you have a right to be heard, you have a right to protest. I am also, and also what is happening now is that anyone that is arrested for breaking the law, it must be done. If it is that you want to arrest someone, it must be done based on evidence and not hearsay, not rumor, not using the word intelligence. The present incident that we all speaking about now with the Hadeeds, it is embarrassing. And that's what my view is. Because if there's evidence, if there's a statement, if there are witnesses to show that a crime was committed, then charge the persons, lock them up, and we move on. But based on your inability to charge someone due to lack of evidence, to take away one's freedom based on the factor that they have the resources to commit an act, I think that is a disgrace to our criminal justice system. I remember the special branch did a report on myself when I was commissioner of police, stating that I was the highest risk citizen ever to be targeted. There were over 40 death threats to myself and my family as commissioner of police. And I'm sure there were tens of thousands of persons wish I was killed. But wishes cannot be an avenue to arrest someone. And this has nothing to do with this present incident. But just for your information, there must be evidence to justify that what someone may talk about in a rum shop or in a private conversation is what they plan to do. You have a right to be innocent until proven guilty. You have a right not to be incarcerated unless there's evidence to lay charges. How is it that we can have a country that we call being democratic, where you have a right to be free, and a line minister could easily say, my intelligence that I acquired is enough for me as a politician to sign my name on a document and take away the rights of freedom of some? Or commissioner of police saying the same thing. Or you always bad talking me, well, I will use a preventive detention order to sign a report to give to the politician to say intelligence reveals that X, Y, or Z did so and so to lock that person up. And again, I'm not saying that this line minister and commissioner of police will do that. I believe that they are not like that. However, it provides the opportunity, and that is what my concern is. We have seen that if persons are arrested because of their protests against the police, what has happened. So these actions only cause many to indeed be concerned that a PDO can very well be used and abused. And everyone is remaining silent. You know why? Because people are afraid. Yesterday was Dominic Hadeed. Last week was Miss Phillip. Tomorrow it could be any citizen in this country. As one politician has sole authority, I keep stressing that, one politician has sole authority and the sole discretion to have you incarcerated without any input required, for or against, to prevent him from so doing. Understand my point. A politician has the sole authority to arrest, say, 500 persons tomorrow by just signing a form known as a PDO and saying it was based on intelligence he received, be it a text message he got, be it hearsay from a partner or even a stranger or even a rumor. If I have a private conversation with someone, it must be linked to show that I had intentions to be able to do what it was that I was stating, not that I had the resources to do so, which is why I will double down on the fact that this state of emergency can be used as an abuse of authority by certain persons that can affect the fundamental rights of citizens, which is your right of freedom. I would strongly recommend we could probably look to go back to that zone of special operation, because if we use the zone of special operation, which is to target criminal elements in specific areas, dealing with the criminals themselves in those specific areas, in the hotspot areas, upon which we can then we can now remove that state of emergency, and it will take away the opportunity that we have now where a politician can just sign their name and take away the freedom of others based on perception, based on hearsay, and based on intelligence with absolutely no evidence whatsoever to lay charges. Trinidad and Tobago, that is the first sign towards dictatorship.
The weather forecast for Tuesday, June 30, 2026 in Trinidad and Tobago features a high temperature of 26 degrees Celsius and a low temperature of 24 degrees Celsius with unstable conditions driven by the passage of Tropical Wave 21. The day will feel warmer with a feels-like temperature peaking at 30 degrees Celsius due to an average relative humidity of 88%. Winds will blow steadily from the east at about 7 to 10 miles per hour. Weather warnings and safety information. Heavy downpours from afternoon thunderstorms are highly likely to cause sudden street or flash flooding in low-lying and flood-prone areas. Sudden strong wind gusts can occur in the immediate vicinity of heavy showers and thundershowers. Due to prolonged and consecutive days of rainfall, the risk of landslides or landslips is elevated. Mild to moderate concentrations of Saharan dust will remain present in the atmosphere, and sensitive individuals are advised to take necessary health precautions.
Regional news now. Barbados Minister Trevor Prescott wants the government to give direct financial support to youth local authors. He believes that young writers should be paid fairly for their creative talents so they can make a good living at home. Wonderful, really wonderful. Right now, many talented young people feel they have to leave the Caribbean. We call it like brain drain. At least they used to call it that long time, I think, in social studies. So right now, many talented young people feel they have to leave the Caribbean to find success because there's not enough support in their respective countries, even here in Trinidad and Tobago. By funding these writers, the government can help build a strong local culture and keep creative minds from moving away. Supporters believe that the wider Caribbean region has a massive audience of over 18 million people who could buy these books. I mean, nowadays people really study to buy books, but still. If schools and governments across the islands work together to promote local literature, writers will not have to rely on big foreign publishing companies. Exactly. That costs a lot of money. To make this happen, experts suggest that governments should create regional reading programs and set up a Central Caribbean publishing house. Wouldn't that be wonderful? This would make it much easier to print, share, and sell books while ensuring that young authors get the money they deserve. International news now. Days before America celebrates its 250th birthday, former President Barack Obama is drawing renewed attention to the founding fathers' ties to slavery. Now people will say, why are you doing that? I just been an author of confusion, and maybe he has his own agenda for doing so, but I didn't really have a problem with it. And I am a Christian conservative. He's a far left radical. Obama said leaders like George Washington helped build a nation while also owning slaves. He wasn't wrong. It's true. It's a historical fact. Calling that contradiction a deep flaw at the heart of America's founding. Yes, it's a contradiction. The founders said all men are created equal, and yet they had slaves. So did they really believe it? Come on, man. I'm telling you, I can't stand politics to the people because the conservatives will be vexed with Obama for saying that. I think sometimes we get confused in thinking that these two stories are separate. They're intertwined, right? Which is why it's possible for me to be a great admirer of George Washington, yes, the first president of the United States, and also acknowledge he was a slaveholder, Obama said in a recent interview. As Americans prepare for Independence Day celebrations across the country, Obama is using the occasion to argue that the nation's founding ideals and its history of slavery cannot be separated. He's right about that as well. Matter of fact, the British ended slavery in their countries, right? In their colonies and at home before America. That's the reality. And I love America, but I'm telling you, we cannot just be so obsessed with politics that we cannot acknowledge historical facts as well. My response: I don't like radical leftist Obama. I don't like him. I believe that he set the foundation. He built the foundation for all this kind of woke, very evil concepts on the Democrat side, on the radical left side today. The Democrats always had very serious problems. Don't get me wrong, but Obama took it to a whole new level. So I said I don't like radical leftist Obama, but slavery was in fact a deep flaw in the history of America's journey to greatness. It is true. It is true. The founders who supposedly believed that all men were created equal should have never owned slaves. That's just the reality. If you really and truly believe that all men were created equal, how on earth would you have slaves? Which means that hypocrisy was quite common back in those days as it is today on both sides of the political landscape, because both sides are. A matter of fact, Obama needs to remember that it was the Democrats who didn't want to end slavery, not the Republicans. The Republican Party actually was an abolitionist party. It was founded on that agenda. You know that? Who knows that? Who knows that here in Trinidad and Tobago? Even though slavery was a common practice throughout the world, including Africa, Mama Africa. Yes, that's the next thing about the hypocrisy. As much as I'm totally against slavery that took place, whether it's in America, England, in the whole of the Caribbean, it was a common practice. It was evil, but it was a common practice, even in biblical times, and also in Africa. It's Mama Africa, the rival tribes caught each other's enemies and sold them to the merchants, right, to the slave traders. So even though slavery was a common practice throughout the world, including Africa, for thousands of years, it doesn't mean that we should forget how evil it was, even in America, the great America. You need to acknowledge and remember that there was evil within your system from the very beginning. Sadly, politics matters more to us, to most of us in this world today than truth. Because I'm telling you, all my conservative friends will say, what the heck are you talking about, Nathaniel Rajkumar? How dare you take the side of the left? The left despises their own country. That's the reality. They hate America and its Christian foundation. Yeah, they try to say that it does not have, that America was not founded on Christian values. It was. Slavery wasn't one of them, right? Slavery was evil in the Bible, other people. It was a punishment, people. Do you all understand that? God never said slavery was good. Slavery was evil from the very beginning. It was a punishment for when people committed sin. My Lord, but anyhow, I'm telling you, this is why I call myself a Christian conservative and not just a conservative. So the left despises their own country and its Christian foundation, while the right tends to ignore or downplay all the major errors which were made throughout America's 250 years as an independent nation, and that's just the reality, people. America became great partially because of slavery. That's not something that you can deny, but a lot of the conservatives will say, oh, you just pushing a set of leftist agendas and narratives. No. I'm just speaking the truth. The Israeli Defense Force and ISA eliminated an Islamic Jihad terrorist who infiltrated Israel during the October 7th massacre and took part in the abduction of Israeli civilians. One by one, Israel's enemies are being sent into eternity. Yes, on Sunday, the IDF and ISA struck in the northern Gaza Strip and eliminated Zaire Brahim, Khalil Abu Salem, a military operative in the Islamic Jihad terrorist organization who infiltrated Israeli territory during the October 7th massacre. Abu Salem took part in the abduction of Israeli civilians from their homes and in holding them hostage as well. Yes, people. So these are not innocent Palestinians. These are people that committed very serious crimes against humanity. Additionally, throughout the war and in recent days, Abu Salem attempted to advance numerous terror attacks against IDF troops and Israeli civilians. He didn't just go into hiding or anything like that, he continued. Abu Salem posed a threat to IDF troops operating in the Gaza Strip and was eliminated in an aerial strike. And of course, the radical leftist jihadist media will try to make it look as though another innocent person was killed by the Israeli Defense Force. Lies, I'm telling you, but that's what we are living in the era and in the time of great deception and great falling away as well. The apostasy is taking place right before our very eyes.
Bible quote of the day. Psalms 103, 1-10. Bless the Lord for his mercy and compassion. Praise the Lord, my soul. All my inmost being, praise his holy name. Praise the Lord, my soul. And forget not all his benefits. Who forgives all your sins and heals all your diseases. Who redeems your life from the pit and crowns you with love and compassion. Who satisfies your desires with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all the oppressed. He made known his ways to Moses, his deeds to the people of Israel. The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. He will not always accuse, nor will he harbor his anger forever. He does not treat us as our sins deserve, or repay us according to our iniquities.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe, most of all, in Jesus' name.